Tell Marcel I said to hang on, that if he lets go, I'll kick the daylights out of him. I'll be there as soon as possible. Dr. Dumont spoke earnestly, although his words were light. They were meant to encourage the sufferer, to stiffen the willpower which alone could whip on the flagging heart until his arrival. The doctor hung up the receiver with fingers slightly trembling and snatched his medicine case from a chair. He opened the little bag and glanced within it to make sure that his needle set and a plentiful supply of digitalis were in their places. Then he seized his hat and rushed from the house. A moment's delay might mean victory for his ancient enemy, death. A plan of action, the only plan that might succeed, had popped into his head at old Etienne's first words. Etienne had said, "Miss Favre's take bad, Mr. Doct. Tink probable you better come quick." Etienne was only an unschooled Cajun who couldn't read one word if he's big as boxcar. But he loved Marcel Favre, even as Dr. Dumont loved him, and there had been an agony of fear in his voice. The doctor had decided instantly that he must catch the westbound train. The difficulty was that the train had already left New Orleans. It was at that very moment aboard the huge iron ferry barge being shoved across the Mississippi by a puffing tug. Dr. Dumont would have to catch it, if at all, somewhere along the opposite bank. As ill luck would have it, he had chosen that particular week to have his car overhauled. He could telephone for a taxi, of course, but at that evening rush hour, too many precious minutes might elapse before it arrived. The streetcars were reasonably fast and dependable, and he knew that he could afford to run no risks. He would take one. An upriver magazine car rumbled to a stop just as he reached the corner, and he swung thankfully aboard. The decision as to which ferry to choose had been made for him. He would cross the river at Walnut Street and try to catch the train at Westwego. Unconsciously, he seated himself at the extreme front of the car, as if to be that much closer to his goal. Marcel Favre was his lifelong companion and dearest friend, and his patient only incidentally. Favre, suffering an unexpected relapse, needed the administration of digitalis most acutely, and only Dr. Dumont might ascertain from his symptoms the exact dosage which would save him. There was not the slightest use in looking at his watch, but the doctor found himself doing so constantly. At each single tap of the conductor's bell demanding a stop, he ground his teeth impatiently. Each double tap, signaling renewed progress, caused him a sigh of relief. He must arrive in time. Then, only 5 minutes' ride from Walnut Street, disaster showed its ugly face. The streetcar's bell emitted a shower of angry clangs. The motorman whirled back the controller and threw on the brakes. The car ground to a stop. Dr. Dumont was on his feet instantly, trying to beat down a great surge of despair. There was no need to ask questions. Squarely across the track sprawled a huge tank truck with one wheel missing, and a rear axle gouged into the pavement. The streetcar was effectively blocked. Acting without volition, the doctor leapt down from the car and started walking rapidly along the street. The outraged passengers behind him might expostulate with motorman and truck driver until they were tired. It would do them no good. As for him, he must catch the westbound train across the river. He'd covered nearly 2 blocks at a furious pace when he realized the futility of his course. He couldn't walk to Walnut Street in less than 20 minutes. And he knew that his old legs would carry him less than half the distance if he attempted to run. He must find some other way. At the corner, he turned abruptly to the left and made his way toward the Mississippi. He would have to find a boatman to ferry him across. Surely there were motorboats in plenty along the levee. A motorboat he must have, for the river was high, and its rushing current would carry a skiff too far downstream in the crossing. Even now he could hear in the still night air the whistle of the train as it left Gretna, and he must catch that train. The thought galvanized his tired legs. He crossed Water Street at a trot. He dashed between 2 rows of mean shanties and found himself upon a crumbling wharf. As he paused for breath, his gaze automatically wandered out across the swirling water. Abruptly, he dashed a hand across his eyes as if to brush away an impossible sight. He had exerted himself too much, he thought. Otherwise, how could B be seeing a steam ferry boat at this point? Surely he wasn't as ignorant of New Orleans as all that. But the sight remained, and to his ears came the confirmatory pow, pow, pow of the stern wheeler. In eager amazement, he heard the jangling of the pilot's bell and watched the boat glide smoothly up to the landing stage. A moment more and he had sprung aboard. The ferry boat remained at the landing stage for a minute or so, its huge paddle wheel turning over at half speed, but no other passenger came aboard, and presently the bell jangled again and the boat swung out into the current. The paddle wheel churned with an accelerating rhythm as the black water swirled past and the crumbling wharf fell farther and farther back into the darkness. As suspense and excitement subsided within him, Dr. Dumont realized that the air off the river was something more than chilly. He turned up his coat collar and stepped through the door of the engine room in search of warmth. He recognized the possibility that this was against the rules, but the fact that there were no other passengers aboard emboldened him. The little infraction would surely be overlooked. "Pretty cool tonight," he remarked to the engineer. The engineer nodded without speaking. He was a big-framed man with an immense red nose. One of his legs had been cut off just below the knee, and the missing portion had been replaced with an old-fashioned, hand-carved wooden peg. It struck the deck with a dull thump whenever he moved about. Dr. Dumont's feeling of relief impelled him to be sociable. He drew out his emergency flask. "Prescription liquor, 12 years old," he said. "Have a drink with me." He was wholly unprepared for the change which came suddenly over the engineer. The fellow's eyes opened wide, his nostrils dilated, and his lips drew back from yellow teeth in a grimace of frightful rage. He took 2 steps forward and raised a ham-like fist. Dr. Dumont backed prudently through the door without stopping to argue. He had seen madness often enough to recognize the gleam from those wild eyes. At that moment came a fortunate diversion. The bell overhead clattered loudly, and the engineer sullenly allowed his arm to fall, then went back to his levers. Dr. Dumont replaced his flask and hastened around to the opposite side of the deck. The crossing was at an end. A narrow lane bordered with tall weeds diverged from the levee, and the doctor made his way along it at a brisk walk. 100 yards farther along, he found himself at the highway. Roaring up the pavement came a westbound bus. Frantically, the doctor flagged it down. Only when he was safely aboard did he realize that he had not paid his ferry fee. In his haste, he must somehow have missed the ticket office. He made a mental note to drop by sometime and pay the delinquent fare, notwithstanding the mad engineer. That had been one trip which was certainly worth the money. He caught the train at Westrigo with only seconds to spare. An hour later, he was descending from it at the little town where he had practiced for so many years and where his patient awaited him. He hoped fervently that he would be in time. Etienne met him at the station with a little automobile. It seemed to the doctor that the wheezy motor quivered with impatience. "How's Marcel?" he demanded as he climbed in. "Worse," said Etienne. "I promise Le Bon Saint can as long as my arm if he's get better. But he's worse." He fed more gasoline to the now roaring motor. The little car shot forward along the dark road and began a nerve-torturing race. It turned unbanked curves on slithering tires and missed trees, fence posts, and culverts by inches. At last, Etienne threw his weight on the brakes and racked it to a stop. Both men were out of the car before it had ceased to vibrate, and Etienne led the way into the house. They found Marcel Favre unconscious, and the old Cajun went down on his knees beside the bed as the doctor fumbled with the latch of his medicine case. "I'm just in time," the doctor muttered, fitting needle to syringe with practiced speed. 30 minutes more, perhaps even 15, and Marcel would have been done for. That ferry boat came like a dispensation. It was a long, tense fight, and although Dr. Dumont prided himself on his freedom from superstition, he more than once seemed to feel the air about him stirred by unseen wings as he labored and watched over his patient. There was an acrid taste in his mouth, and it was as if restraining hands tugged at his every muscle. Never had his enemy appeared so loath to relinquish a victim. But skill and devotion triumphed at last, and the presence of death was no longer felt in the room. The patient was breathing quietly and regularly when Dr. Dumont signed to Etienne to accompany him from the bedchamber. "He needs nothing but sleep now," said the doctor as he closed the door behind him. "And while he's getting it, maybe you could scrape me up a sandwich? I've eaten nothing since noon." "You bet," Etienne said, his brown old face aglow with gratitude and admiration. "I'll fix you something better. I'll fix you nice omelette and drip you par café. Good souper for good doctor." They went out into the kitchen, and while he skillfully cracked eggs and dropped them from their shells into an earthenware bowl, Etienne asked the doctor how he had managed to catch the train. Dr. Dumont settled himself comfortably at the table, then recounted his difficulties and told of how they had been overcome. Etienne shredded a clove of garlic and added it to the eggs. You say you catch the ferry somewhere around State Street or Jefferson Avenue? He asked. You certainly not Napoleon or Walnut. Absolutely, the doctor assured him. I didn't notice the name of the street, but there was a box factory alongside the wharf where I caught the boat, and there's no such factory at either Walnut Street or Napoleon Avenue. I know that much about the city. Oh, the box factory ferry, exclaimed Etienne. He thoughtfully added salt, pepper, Tabasco, and fresh basil leaves to the mixture in the bowl. You say the engineer had a wooden leg? Yes, and if you ask me, the old devil's crazy as a bat. Maybe. Etienne whisked the omelet to a creamy froth, then turned it into a skillet under which a low fire burned. You want I should tell you about one-leg engineer, which walk at box factory ferry? Go ahead, said Dr. Dumont, his eyes on the omelet. Etienne chuckled. A omelette must cook slow, he said. He put a lid on the skillet and took up a small coffee pot. It all happened while I living in Yalns, he began. I living on Magazine Street and working over at syrup factory. I have to cross the river 2 times every day on box factory ferry, engineer on boat named LeBlanc. Big man with red head. The engineer on the boat tonight had red hair, put in Dr. Dumont, looking up momentarily. Yeah. The old Cajun poured boiling water over the dark roasted coffee and chicory and set the pot on the back of the stove to drip. He resumed. Engineer LeBlanc like whiskey too much. All time he have bottle in his pocket. Drink, drink, drink all day long. Not get so very drunk, but drink too much. One day he's not pay attention to pilot's bell and not reverse engine quick enough. Bump landing, float hard. Kabam! LeBlanc own brother is was standing on float, waiting for ferry, bump, make him fall off and drown. You mean that he caused his own brother to drown? Demanded the doctor. Yeah. His brother is can't swim, but bump head on piling, is knock out, never come up. They's not find him for 2 hours. Did that stop the engineers drinking? No, snorted Etienne. Nothing is stop him drinking. 2 weeks after his brother drowned, he's drinking some more and puts foot under connecting rod. Bam! Mash foot comme ça. He crushed one of the eggshells in his brown fist. I see, said the doctor. Gangrene and amputation. That is how he acquired his wooden leg. What happened then? One night while he's in l'hôpital, his brother come to him and tell him, You mean another brother? Interrupted the doctor. Etienne folded the omelet dexterously and transferred it to a platter. He poured out a cup of coffee and set platter and cup before the doctor before he spoke. No, same brother. Brother tell him if he's not stopped drinking so much whiskey, he's gonna be sorry. Gonna be sorry long as he live. And lots longer. Wait a minute, exclaimed the doctor, pausing in the act of putting his fork into the savory omelet. You're getting all mixed up. First you say his brother was drowned, and then you say his brother came to him while he was in the hospital. I don't understand what you mean. Maybe you understand more better when I'm finished? Etienne returned. When LeBlanc get out of l'hôpital with his wooden leg, the ferry company is not want him to work for them some more. But he's tell him he's gonna get lawyer, biggest lawyer in the Alps, and sue him for big dommage for lose his leg in accident. Then ferry company say he can go back to work if he's not sue him. He's not drink much for 1-2 weeks after he's go back to work. Then one day he's got his bottle again and a big crowd of people is going over river to ball game. Must be there is 100 men and women on the ferry boat. LeBlanc is drink too much and now watch his water gauge. Steam gauge go all the way around. Then LeBlanc is turn more water into boiler and she's blow up. Kabam! People that's not kill is drown. Everyone. LeBlanc too. Another kind of drunken driver, commented Dr. Dumont, turning from Etienne and attacking the omelet with vast appetite. It was a good story, all right, but you got mixed up about the brother who was drowned coming to the hospital. The way you told it, it seemed as if he came to the hospital after he was drowned. He did come after he's drowned. The doctor swallowed a huge draught of the black Louisiana coffee, wiped his mouth, and set down the cup with an air of satisfaction. Then he said reproachfully, I'm surprised at you, Etienne, telling me a story like that. What did I ever do to deserve it? Do? Echoed the old Cajun shrilly. What you do? You tell me you crossed the river tonight on Box Factory Ferry between Walnut and Napoleon. Didn't you? It's 25 years this very month that Engineer LeBlanc is blow up boat with 100 people on him. And there ain't been no steam ferry on that part of the river since.
But that would mean that it was a ghost. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and if you really like it, please head to the Patreon link in the description and join all of these incredible people whose names you see here in supporting this channel. Particular thanks to Audrey D, Break System BSE, Michael Fattori, Zachary Snowden-Smith, and Xana Zira. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being you.